Right, we are live. Hey, good evening, everyone. Dave Wilson of the Ring of Hire Show. How are you, Cassandra?
Oh, I am great. Thank you for having me, David. How are you?
Good. I'll tell you what, you're going to love this show, everybody, because I told Cassandra I got one word for her, and that is attitude. So you're going to see right after that. We got a great show, but we'll be right back after this video. Always goes real fast. I think I got to change that picture. I think I look a little older than the military one, but I like the picture. So, everybody, tonight I got a great guest, Cassandra Govan. She's from Chicago, and I'm gonna let her introduce herself. But this is kind of what it's about. Let's see, a genetic natural behavior consultant. How's that?
That is perfect. Thank you very much for the introduction. So I am Cassandra Govan, CEO and founder of Dema Agency Consultants, LLC here in downtown Chicago, Illinois. And yes, as David said, I am a genetic natural behavior consultant, and I am honored to be here with you all this evening and with David.
Thank you. All right. Hey, good evening, James. Because this is a great guy to connect with. He does some great podcasts, James. He's awesome.
Hi, James.
But I'm just going to go right into it, Cassandra, because you know me. I already had my counseling with you. I've had my counseling. You like to label, I like how you say, my goal is to be work-life fit, or we may refer to as work-life balance.
Correct.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Okay, so I don't really believe that there's a way to balance everything in our lives, but I think that it's important for us to figure out for ourselves how things should fit in our lives. So I know a lot of people say, oh, you know what, I pour a lot of time into my career. Well, that's fine if you do that, but are you also pouring some time into those relationships, your health, your finances, your community, and your recreation? So it all needs to fit regardless if it's 5% or 80%, as long as there's a place for it. To me, that's what's important. So that's why I term it as work-life fits.
I like it. I thought maybe because all the times you're going to the gym that I see on the videos on LinkedIn that you're going to the gym. I'm like, well, that's what that is. But it makes sense, like you said, because you're kind of balancing, and we're going to get into a little bit more about fitness here, but that goes into it, and I like that. James, let's see. Dave Wilson and Cassandra Govan. Great evening. There he is.
Great evening, James.
Hi, Susan. We got Susan Franco. Great evening. All right. We talked about. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about yourself. You said it took years to discover who was the real you. And, you looked at investing in coaches, therapists, trainers, mentors, and advisors only help temporarily. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that, Cassandra?
So what I mean is humans cannot decode humans. So they can work with us like to try and change our mindset. But the issue is if they don't know what's actually driving me to behave the way that I do, then how are they actually changing anything? So it's going to be temporary. And that was what was important, is to say, even though I've had therapists and things, they could never tell me like for a fact why it is that I behaved the way I did or why I made certain decisions I did. They did it based on speculation according to what I told them. But if I didn't know it myself, what I say is going to be limited, which means what they give me is also going to be limited. So that's why I say that even having all of those individuals, it didn't help me full time or permanently because there was a missing piece.
Did it help you evolve in what you do today, though?
Most of like therapists were about more of marriage. Coaches were more about my health. And then, as far as business and stuff was concerned, that was more of like having mentors and things in my life. But I didn't realize it until after I got out the fitness business or was transitioning out the fitness business, that there still were some missing things that I just couldn't come to terms with it within myself that I needed to know the answers to.
I'll tell you what, you have 20 years in that business, right? You
I
know,
did.
that's a long time. I have my good colleague Rob. He's in Pittsburgh. He's a great colleague of mine. He comes on all the shows. I had to ask you this because I made a big circle. So you said, after much research, I learned a secret weapon called genetic natural behavior. Now you got me.
Okay.
What is it?
So there are two types of behaviors that all of us have. One is our genetic, our innate DNA behavior. It's what we inherit from birth to 3 years old. And then after 3, we all start to develop that personality. And the personality becomes more of based on our education and our experience, like values and beliefs that we learn as we're growing up. So it's situational. Well, because genetic natural behavior is not situational, it's hardwired and ingrained, and it's the go-to behavior that all of us show, regardless if we're 3 years old or 90 years old. We actually show it because it is so innate in us as an individual. So I uncover those behaviors using technology.
So that's what you have when people come to you.
Absolutely. That is what I do for them.
Can you give an example? What is a typical person coming to you for?
Okay, so let's say this, like I have people who come to me who are in therapy. So they may see a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a social worker. Now, when they deal with those individuals, people still always want to know, well, why am I like this? So yeah, I can't say no, or yes, I suffer from imposter syndrome, but is that something I learned, or is it something that's really part of me? And because they don't know that and they don't want to accept people technically giving them names, they need to understand, is it really who I am, or is it something that I technically can change?
Can you inherit? That's inheriting also, right? So you have,
absolutely.
It comes the same way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because behaviors are inherited. They're fixed. So behavior is fixed and it drives our personality. And I think it's a confusion because the names are interchanged in life. So people are not really familiar to know that there's genetic behavior that's actually innate. And then there's situational behavior, which is more personality behavior that is learned.
All right. So situational, take me back to that again. That is, see, I'm learning here. So I want to take me back to that point.
Okay, so after our neural pathways and everything are completely formed, right? At that time, at 3, you kind of can explore the world more yourself. So you learn and you can look and observe your parents or people who are raising you. And then that ingrained behavior that you inherited from them, it either becomes even more ingrained as you grow older, or you kind of start to shift your thinking around things. So for instance, I like to talk about weight loss. If a person got in a mirror and they're overweight and they're looking at themselves, and I say, hey, you know what, rate how you look and feel about yourself right now from 1 to 5. Most of them would say, I'm a 1, right? Poor. But in 6 months, if they get their results, how would they rate themselves? Would they still say poor, or would they say a higher number? Higher number, right? It's the same way with personality. Once I learn how to eat better and work out and I'm feeling energetic, I'm sleeping, those are learned behaviors, which becomes part of like a personality, right? So those work for me. But guess what? If I fall back to the same thing that I did, that changes. But my behaviors that got me to think about that or to make the change or not be able to make it will always stay the same. So that's the way you look at personality. It changes based on your experience, your education, your values, your beliefs, your environment. All of those things mold your personality.
I like that. I tell you what, this is great about LinkedIn Live. You can learn so much. You can learn it from there. I have one of the questions that I have. Oh, let's go to this one here. We talked about the secret weapon, genetic natural behavior, but costing, wreaking havoc, and affecting your ability to create your work-life fit.
Yes.
That's what I had circled here. I like this one.
Okay, costing. So on that, go ahead. You say.
No, go ahead. Like costing. I was trying to figure, I know you say like what it costs for your hospital, facility, practice. I just wanted to see how they all go together.
Right. So the problem is in a workplace, when you don't understand the behaviors of your employees, your clinicians, your clients, or your patients. And if you can't communicate on their level, then we spend more time bumping heads than we actually do being productive. So when you can meet a person where they actually are at, and you realize like, oh, Cassandra has this specific type of genetic behavioral trait. I can't change that about her. But what I can do then is modify how I deal with Cassandra to flex my style to how she is, so that she still feels more comfortable and allowed to be herself. When companies do not do that, and they cannot do that, that is when the employees act out and start to cost them money, because the productivity goes down. You cannot retain the staff. They're not compliant. They go rogue, which contributes to over 5% of, loss in revenue, etc. So it costs them when they don't manage those behaviors within the workplace.
So then how do you feel? I mean, we all know what the last 2 years have been like. Is it a lot different now in this way of costing comparing to like a couple of years ago? Or
well, because behavior is fixed, even how they were a couple of years ago before the pandemic, it's still actually the same. So even if you look at certain industries, like for instance, in behavior, we talk about industries that don't have flexibility. So healthcare, education, right? Retail, hospitality. If you put individuals in that same job 4 years ago, if they are about flexibility in their life, those jobs still would cause tension in their lifestyle, because they have to flex too much to modify to be in that, because it does not give them what they need to perform at their best. So it affects them, whether it's 4 years ago or today.
So when you're right, because genetic, I understand what you're saying now. When you're not, like I said, I like how you word a lot of these things, and this is what I hope to get out of the show for people. Listen, I always say if 1 or 2 people can take something from the show, it's well worth it. When we said about affecting your revenue and income, we talked about affecting professional, personal outcomes to serve employees, such as communication, productivity, retention, compliance, talent acquisition, onboarding, job matching, life planning goals, health, fitness, nutrition, and wellness. And we were talking before how that right there affects everything. We Absolutely. All know it, but how do you tell somebody that when you speak with them?
Well, majority of the time when I do behavior, I talk to them about their aspects of their life. And when I understand the aspects of their life, just by asking them questions. And what's so great about behavior is one test technically can generate over 500 insights about a person. So I can look at it and literally say, oh, David, the reason why you're going to have a very hard time in your health or in your career or in your marriage are because of these traits. These traits are going to hold you down every single time. So if you can understand them, then guess what? You can pick better jobs for yourself. You can understand how to communicate with your spouse, right? Because you understand yourself and what you need as a communicator. You understand what you need to do about your health and how you're going to drop the ball consecutively. So it literally reveals all of that to me as a consultant. And then I can tell you what you need to do in order to fix those areas.
I'll tell you, I'm glad you can do it, because I couldn't. I'm always on the opposite side. What I liked about, here we go. I like this part where he said, if you can understand their behavior, you can then help them transform, effectively manage their health, career, relationships, and finances, which means, I like how you said business growth for you. I like how you compare that to the business.
Absolutely.
So you're putting everything around, you're just labeling it as a business, or I'm just trying to figure that one out there. Like when you say business growth, is that just a wording or is it just a plan?
Well, I'm actually referring to healthcare providers. So whether it's hospitals, I'm speaking to organizations when I tell them that, because a lot of times organizations like to put Band-Aids on problems, right? Instead of saying, let me kind of like get to the root of what it is. And then if I can solve that root problem, it's going to solve everything else for the employee. So a lot of times business is one-dimensional. How does it fix the business problem? But it's not only about fixing the business problem. If you can fix the employee, clinician, patient problem, they automatically will fix the business problem. So you have to invest in it.
You get involved with the employee or who comes to you with the healthcare providers.
Yes. So my primary,
now I get it.
Yeah. So my primary client are businesses. So business owners who want to fix the dynamics within their business, because their revenue is affected, because their productivity is affected. So I speak majority of the time to them, but occasionally I throw it in also speaking to the people who work for them.
That makes total sense. You know, when you start, like I told you, Cassandra's the only one that I have 40 pages, everybody. So 40 pages, so only, but I'm still trying to learn. Now it makes total sense. I understand what you do. How's that sound? I was comparing it to, well, it can be individual or businesses, right?
Yes.
So you open to all of them. All right.
Yes.
Being what you do, you know, you put in here, empower your employees, clients, patients to be happy and healthy. I know that sounds easy. You can all say it. We can put it on LinkedIn. Everybody's like likes it 10,000 times. Yeah. But what does it mean to you? And how do you handle that?
So empowering is giving people the tools and the resources that are necessary, absolutely essential for them to be able to make the decisions better for them. And again, because business is so one-dimensional, they look at it as, what does the business get out of it? Not knowing that if you can satisfy and empower them and help them be happy and healthy, they will pour into your business more, right? So it comes down to a numbers game, legitimately. And if they can improve the numbers of their people, they can improve the numbers within their business. So just giving the people the tools and the resources to help them to make decisions, choices and options, which businesses are not giving their employees. Give them the options that they need in order for them to perform better and to get their ducks in order so that they can contribute and pour into you as an organization. That's the empowerment.
So how do you feel like when you go into another company, a company hires you, how does that company feel having a consultant come to them? I haven't heard of it because, like I said, I liked your profile and looking what you did, but how do they respond to that?
Many of times it depends on the leader who brings you in. For leaders who are not so open or relationships focused, they more just want to think of results and don't even think like, this is when you deal in a business, it's a people business, right? We deal with people, invest in those. When I get the leaders who are really open to, they normally want to understand themselves because it's important to them that their employees or clinicians understand them and that they work well. So when they bring me in, I don't come in like a shark. I'm actually there to run the behavior reports. And then in a group, I don't single anyone out. We just talk about what's on their individual reports and help them to understand and to see what their employees see or see what their leaders see in them as a person. And once they see that, it's more like that aha moment, like, oh man, you know, I thought that was the case, but now I know for a fact that that's the truth, what people think about me as a person.
Right. I like that because I think the employee would get a lot out of that, don't you? I mean, when because their opinions heard or, you know, it's brought to their attention. I mean, I would probably like that if you were able to write things down and actually somebody handle that and take care of it and show the results. Correct. I think that's a win, you know, for that part. I have my favorite one of them here. Oh, I know, right? Let me just keep turning these pages. All right. I know here's another quote on LinkedIn that you hear it all the time. But don't be so focused on the bad and ugly. I know. Don't limit yourself. You know, don't limit your thinking. And you talked about even social media. We can throw that in there, how everything works there. But in your world, don't be so focused on the bad and ugly towards your business.
Correct. So a lot of times people read and hear everyone else's successes, right? And then they only focus on how they are not successful in life or in business, in their careers. And my thing is, when you're so focused on the bad and ugly, you never can see the good, which means you'll always stay in that stuck place. But right. When you count your blessings and say, you know, hey, I woke up today, I have another day to a do-over, then look at that really as a success. That's an opportunity for you to do something different than you did a day ago, an hour ago, a minute ago. So don't dwell on the bad and the ugly because that keeps you in the down place. Whereas when you think about that successes, the wins that you have, regardless of how small, they will always elevate you to get you to the next level where you want to go.
And that's like what I told you about closing the business that I had after, let's face it, it was an ouch moment. It was tough, but the value of what I've learned now, it's over. You can't go back. You got to just, you know, you got to let it go. You got to let it go. But if I didn't have what happened to me then, I don't think I'd be where I am today.
Absolutely.
because the value of everything I learned, the value how to talk to people, the value how to treat people on this show here that I've met so many people, I wouldn't have done this. I mean, it just comes
I
down
agree.
to that, and you feel that way. And I always tell everybody here I got to tell you a short story, everybody. So I like to go on LinkedIn, look at candidates, and I mean, people that are postings. And I'll tell you what, it came down when you connect with Cassandra and you look on there. I'll tell you what, when I scroll down, there's one word, attitude. I told her attitude. When you attitude, honesty, those two together to me are pretty powerful.
Okay.
Because let me see if I can word this right towards you. Can you have an attitude and be honest, or an attitude and be dishonest? If that makes sense to you.
You can have attitude and be both, because the people who don't want to stand up under their stuff or need to sugarcoat things for you, etc., they can have an attitude, but also show dishonesty in their motives and everything else as well. Whereas I'm all about, hey, this is who I am as a person. It shows in my genetic natural behavior. Love me or hate me is fine, but I'm going to literally tell you the truth. And I don't feel like there's going to be any repercussions for it.
How do you do this? Is where these great questions come out just from listening to you. So how do you take that from a client's prospect and into the company that you're going into? How do you take that and meet it halfway? Like, you got your company, the employees, you have them, you know what's going on. Then you go here, you hear what there is going on. Somebody's either wrong or right. Not know anyway, but how do you deal with that?
So for me, I don't look at it as far as wrong and right. I respect that everyone has their own opinion, right, and thoughts of things. So I just respect that, and I try to meet on a common ground. So the common ground is, regardless of what you think or what I think, I know that behaviors are affecting your business. How it is, I'm not sure, but let me look at the data, and the data is going to tell us both. And let's just agree on that.
So you're showing them that after all what you do, right? You're not like a judge or someone saying this is the way it is or that. You're just going in there and you're going to provide insights to both.
Yes, I'll provide the insights, and we discuss it. I discuss it first with the leadership team, and then get an understanding with them of who they are and how they're showing up. But they see the data themselves, so I don't even have to say it. They can look at it and say, oh, that is me, or oh, this is a strength or a struggle. And majority of them accept their flaws, they accept their strengths, and they see it on paper, and it becomes real to them, and they understand and can start to relate to how they've been dealing with their clinicians or their employees or clients. So they kind of can technically make the connection themselves instantly. And then I'm just there to kind of talk them through and coach them through to really understand how, hey, let's change those struggles into strengths. And this is how you do that. And
that's
then we talk to the employees as well. Yeah.
Struggles and restraints. I like that. That's the way you said that. Let me get to the one that I loved. Here it is. All right. I know, right? Well, I love it. This is the first one. Love it. I know there are many of you afraid to express how you really feel. There is another powerful, if you just read it, everybody will be like, yeah, that's right. And I told you before, if you come across honest, are you, let me rethink that. If you're afraid of it and you don't say anything, then you're really out doing yourself. You can say, to be honest, and say it professionally. That's what I always say.
Yes.
And you don't have to come across strong. If you're, like you said, you're not afraid to confront something. And I think it just comes down to the way you say it, the wording. You know,
Agreed.
I mean, that must be a lot towards you there, because I know you're not afraid to say anything. I read your post.
Yeah, and that what you said about that was that when you do look at social media so much, and because I do what I do, once I see who a person is, I can tell oh my, they don't have the confidence. Oh, They really need the validation from others. So they're not going to say things that they think. So my job is, when I see it, hear it, because they won't say it, I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. Let's just talk about it. I'm their voice. Because it's not even how I feel a lot of times it's because I know it's how they feel, and they don't know how to express it. So I'm going to put it into words for you, and I'm going to express it on your behalf.
But you're not speaking for them. You're trying to get it out of them.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So I speak for them to give them the courage to know it's okay for you to say it too. It's okay to feel it. Yeah.
That was really good. That was pretty good. It took me a little bit there, but I got it. And a lot. I love doing a show like this because, again, 2-3 people see it and learn something from it. it's a great value, and one little word or one phrase that you say or the way you word it, it can change something. Here, this one was a good one.
Okay.
You don't want to tell your boss, business partner, spouse, personal trainer, or financial advisor some of your deep fears, concerns, or biases. Why?
Why? Well, so in behavior, there are some individuals who have 6 of 8 factors. They meet 6 of 8 factors that have to do with limited beliefs, imposter syndrome, fear, doubt, self-sabotage, and etc. So they are so concerned about what other people might think or say that they just won't say it at all. They can't learn how to say it. It is so ingrained in who they are that it's very difficult for them to say it. But again, remember in the beginning, I talked about people who still need to know, why do I do certain things? Because they don't know why they feel the way they do. Instead, they just refrain from having a conversation at all.
So that's where the bias, you feel?
Absolutely.
Okay, because that's where I was going with that one, the concerns of it. And we had talked about on another show about bias, and I didn't realize that I had some of it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even realize you have it.
Nope.
And until when I did a show on it, and you talk with an expert, I'm like, whoa, I think I got some bias in me, but you can correct it. You can change it. The other one. Here we go. I put a heart on this one. If you're the employer, spouse, or person who makes someone else feel they shouldn't or can't express themselves to be themselves, I think it falls into what you almost just said prior to that. You're their voice.
Yeah. Now on it, I think I said, stop it.
Yeah. Shame on you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now here's why that's important. So people always read about my story of being married. My husband and I are completely different styles. So I have plenty of times discredited, shushed. I don't want to hear it. No details, etc. Right. In the relationship. I've done it in my career. I've done it with people who try to advise me, whether I've done it with people who worked for me. And I realized, like, God, that was terrible. But my genetic behavioral style has a tendency to do that to people. And when I realized that, even from talking to people who have my style and looking like, oh my God, they have the same problem, I realized like some of the leaders out here in these companies are that person. We need to stop, because we are the reasons why they're afraid to speak up. We're the reason why they feel shame and embarrassed and humiliated. It's because of us and how we present ourselves and speak and treat them. So we need to stop. Shame on us. That was the whole point.
Well, there too, when you say it, it's, I think I always call from Andre Young, you evolve as I get older. Listen, I'm 55. So now I think I've about had it. I don't know how much more I can learn, but you evolve and you've made all these mistakes before.
Yep.
You've made those mistakes, and experience gets you where you're at. I mean, look, you get 20 years in what you do as a fitness. And if you didn't have that, you probably wouldn't be able to do what you do now.
Yeah. So here's what's funny about what you just said. Actually, innately, what I do now is probably what I could have done when I was 12 years old. Because genetically, it's in me to do it.
Okay. All right. You're going to go back. Okay. I get it. Yeah. He's going to be back. All right. I have a couple more things. Another one that I liked was, I love all these things. As a strength, I confront difficult situations with people like a boss. I know we talked about it, but I'm going to read it one more time for anybody that's listening out there, right? As a strength, I confront difficult situations with people like a boss.
Okay. Now I'll explain to that. So when I say like a boss, I'm going to talk about that term because it is more of an urban type of term that people say. And when I say it, when I think of a person who's not a fake boss, but like a real boss, they do not cower. When it comes to having to deal with situations, etc., they're not running right and hiding behind their desk. They're literally going to face you head on and confront you head on, right or wrong. And we have no problem standing up under if we're right or wrong. So if I'm wrong, I'm going to own it. Hey, you know what? I was wrong about that. Because to me, that's what real leaders and real bosses are supposed to be able to do. So that's when I say I confront it like that. My genetic behavior is high confronting. So there's not a lot of things people can bring to me and I won't be able to stand my ground and not actually deal with them face to face.
I like how you said receipts. I wrote that down. You were saying about receipts. You got to tell them about that because I love the word receipts. The way you were doing that with receipts.
Right. So everybody knows, again, in urban, they say I have receipts. And that just simply means that there is nothing usually that I'm going to say out of my mouth that I cannot prove, and not prove just from me, but prove through, hey, I can show you tax returns that I've made six figures. Hey, I can show you, me being in the newspaper to prove that I did this, like in my community. I can
Right.
show you that I can do your behavior because I have scientific validated information from Georgia Tech to show what it works and who created it and when it was created and how much time has been tested. So those are my receipts. That is my proof to show when I say something, I'm not saying it because I'm lying or deceiving you.
Right.
I'm saying it because I have something to back it up because I've done it before myself. My receipts.
See, here I always have to say, I say this respectively, in my opinion, because I've learned sometimes I say things on here. I'm like, whoa, look at that message I got later on. I'm like, God, I was just saying, that's why I say respectively, because I don't want people to get mad. I mean, I don't know everything. I would love to be able to do what you do. Like when you validate something, like you had a business, you've done this. Yeah, you're going to come back with facts. Yep. But sometimes you can have an opinion. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's not.
I got one more for you. And I want to thank you for your time so much tonight. I know we tried a couple times with this. Is the main one I like here is what you use more, your strengths or your struggles? That was a big one for me that I circled.
And that is so everything is a good thing. The problem is when we cannot manage our strengths, they become struggles. So I gave the example of I am high authoritative, like off the charts. So it's a strength, but it can become a struggle if I'm a tyrant and want to control everyone and I want all the authority and don't want to share with others. Imagine how that would be in a business. So even though it's a strength to be a leader and be authoritative naturally, it's also a struggle when I have to take control of and be the only one who wants to listen to myself and not to others. That is when it becomes a struggle. So I have to learn how to manage that struggle to make it back a strength.
Yeah, because if you got attitude, you have to tone it down, or you have to turn around and be not a different person, but kind of, I don't know, just change it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I do have one more. All right. I forgot to add this one, and this is the final one.
Okay.
We said when we talked about before, if over 87% of communication issues are due to intensified behaviors, how much of these behaviors are affecting your relationships and your bottom line? And I wanted to ask you, we talked about what that intensified behavior.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Harvard actually did that review, and Harvard did that statistic and provided it. And what happened is they couldn't understand why people derail performance, etc. And it came down to the behavior. So the innate genetic behavior is the reason why we cannot manage our communication and stuff in the business. So it's that behavior that comes out. It's intensified because it comes out when we're under stress and pressure. COVID was a prime example of seeing how that actually happened around the world, because when people couldn't go to work, when their parents had to stay at home with their kids, if you paid attention, domestic abuse and even suicide rates went up. So people didn't see this in individuals when things were normal, but when their lives changed and they were under stress and pressure, you saw that intensified behavior. And at that time is when they started to act out because of that behavior.
So that's only going to be when you're stressed. That's only when you're in a stressful situation. How do you relate that though to the communication?
So when we are in a stressful situation, a job that we don't really like, but we deal with because it pays our bills, right? But it's not really based on what we want. Communication is an issue because there are 4 different communication styles. So if I speak one way, David, and you speak another, I'm speaking to you how I understand my communication. But for you, it may sound like I'm speaking a different language, even though we both speak English. So when I am intensified as a communicator, my speech changes to who I am as a person. It brings in the natural behavior aspect, and it brings in how I actually communicate. So you add that to communicating in the office and look at what types of problems it can present amongst people.
Wow, I'll tell you what, I'm going to sound pretty smart after this. I'm going to be like, because I didn't ask you about how that communication came into it. Mm-hmm. And now it makes sense because we're 2 different people. If you look out your window, you can tell she's in Chicago. That is real, and I told Cassandra that I have deer and rats and mice and, ducks out here out front. She's sitting there in the city. But it's almost the same thing what you're saying there, because we're just 2 different people from 2 different places. So, but I'll tell you what, I've enjoyed tonight. Wow.
Me
Between
too.
our talk beforehand, and I want to give you this time, if you could just tell us what you do again and how to connect with you, and it's all yours.
All right. So Cassandra Govan again, founder and CEO of DEMA Agency Consultants, LLC. I am technically what you call a genetic natural behavior consultant. So I am the person who helps you to uncover and understand who you were born to be. And by doing that, I'm able to change outcomes in your entire life. Talking about your career, your business, your relationship, your health, your finances, and as a bonus, community and recreation. So if you all are kind of curious about innately why do you behave the way you do or make the decisions that you do, then please go to my website. It's demaagency.com, which is the name of my business, and find out more information. Thank you so much, David.
And we're going to put that on the link too and everything. So okay. I'm going to talk to you right after this, everybody. We'll be back after this. So.